Zip got everything done. But top 5 Mississippi State coaching candidates. I am going to admit to you now that when I did this yesterday,
you didn't know what you were talking about.
I left off Jamie Chadwell off this list, and now here he is today.
Pissed him off.
Maybe even.
Yeah, I still don't think that's real though, based on what I saw. I think you got duped by a Photoshop.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh,
I did too. Yeah.
No, I didn't. I said I thought it was a Photoshop.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a Photoshop. It would have been great if it wasn't, but I am like 99.9% sure.
Paul was trying to get me to say something that wasn't true on the air, and
Well, look,
I wouldn't bite.
All I can tell you is the first comment on his actual tweet. I went and looked before I looked at it. Was right after it was posted. Was dude's location is in Starkville. So you know that's all. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
It was right after he did it. Somebody posted that. So you know maybe they took it off. Maybe
Might
it's
have an
Photoshop.
uncle,
But
a grandmother. You don't know.
So I don't know.
But
Anyway.
he will be somebody that kicked the tires on.
But yes, he will be. Yes, and he, so just know that Jamie Chadwell will be an excellent hire.
But he's not on your list.
He's not on my list because I see him going somewhere differently. But Mississippi State's open
Other
now.
than to an SEC team.
To a different SEC team.
Okay.
That's what I think. But those jobs aren't open yet. So we'll see. Number 5. Look, if you want to try to keep the Mike Leach train going, Kliff Kingsbury. If that's what you really want. Now, this is unlikely because I doubt that he's moving from L.A. to Starkville, Mississippi.
For a head coaching job?
But it is a head coaching job. And it is an SEC job. And he has cachet. And eventually, he's a good enough coach where I think he's going to figure it out. But I don't know. But if you really want to keep the Mike Leach tree going, the best, most available Mike Leach tree coach to me, would be Kliff Kingsbury. He has not had a lot of success as a college head coach. He had Patrick Mahomes and didn't go to a bowl game, like all those things. But he's still young, and if you want to run that system, there's the guy you need to go get.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want to do, I don't know. Have they given any indication about that? I mean, I guess they just did this move, so yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted to keep it in the same family, that would make a lot of sense. You wonder how Kliff's grown as a coach since he was, really in the big seat there with the NFL, and now having to, take a little bit of a demotion, and they're on Lincoln Riley's staff at USC. Has a great spot as an analyst, but yeah, I would have to imagine there's an itch to get back into that big chair. And so, in the SEC, especially in this new era, an air raid established, as you mentioned there, at least the skeleton of it. That's poor. Yeah, I didn't mean that. But
just
you know what I mean?
version.
The version of the air raid there. So yeah, that would be a hire that makes some sense because of the reasons you mentioned.
Yeah. Number 4, Manny Diaz. Killing it as the defensive coordinator at Penn State right now. Last week's game, notwithstanding, with the Ohio State game, they lost, but it wasn't because of Manny Diaz. And they held Michigan enough in check on defense to win the game if they had an offense. But his name's going to be hot. He's been at Mississippi State 2 other times before, so it would not surprise me to see them kick the tires on Manny Diaz. Now, he's had some varying success as a head coach, and obviously Miami ran him out the door to make room for Mario Cristobal, but I would not be surprised to see them, because they've had successful stints with him as their defensive coordinator in the past, maybe make him the head coach.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this would probably be down the list, but you have him at 4, so he's somewhat down the list. That's just not an appealing name to me, but maybe they would feel differently in Starkville because there's some of that familiarity. I just think, though, like with this, I think you're swinging big, and I don't think you get to him as far as your swings go until there's a few other guys that are checked off the list first. So, yeah, I mean, like maybe that's a name you eventually get back to, and there's that natural connection, but this to me is not like you need to rush to the table to throw your offer at the guy by any means.
Number 3, Glenn Schumann, Georgia co-defensive coordinator, young guy on the rise, is going to get some interviews. And in the SEC, like now you start pulling off I guess he kind of probably falls on both trees, but you start pulling off the Kirby Smart tree, and he's a young up-and-comer who certainly, the SEC likes to hire from within, so to speak, coaches with experience recruiting in that league. And Glenn Schumann is probably one of the hottest young coaches in college football right now.
You know what? He's going to start experiencing, and Lanning left, and he'll start experiencing that 2 or 3 coordinators about every other year. You got to replace them, not because they're not productive or producing, but because other people want them because they're a part of the Well, the tree of Kirby Smart.
Yeah, I mean, up and coming guy, obviously, and you want to take your Dan Lanning, your version of that, right? Then that would be a smart play. Obviously, would be well versed in what it takes in the SEC. But yeah, hearing his name a lot, just as far as this carousel getting heated up, and okay, yeah, I could see where you're going there.
Yeah, even though they are 5-5 this year, I'm throwing Charles Huff's name out there as the Marshall head coach. It's probably not the year for him, given how they've done. But I do think that people are going to kick the tires on him. He's a good young and up and coming coach. I do think that he bears looking at, and you could maybe switch Charles Huff out for Jimmy Chadwell in this, because I kind of had that decision. I'm like, I'm going to lean Charles Huff on this one, but maybe this is the spot I should have had Jamie Chadwell in.
Yeah, I think Jamie Chadwell's way up the list in comparison, more so than any of these other guys. I mean, I won't pretend to know a whole lot about Charles Huff as far as why he would be the best candidate for this job. But I mean, I guess it does have a Mississippi State tie, so there is that. I guess is where you're going and circling back there, and has done an okay job at Marshall. I mean, they're, I think, a little bit above 500 during his tenure there. So I know he's a favorite of yours on these lists. He's a guy who gets mentioned for a lot of the potential openings. He doesn't seem to get close to a lot of the ones that we've had, but
you his agent?
He does get mentioned quite a lot.
I should be.
Yeah,
I should be.
You absolutely should be.
I should be Jamie Damn Chadwell's too. He's the first time he's not on the list.
That's the guy that you actually mentioned the most. But yeah, I mean, Huff has experience there in Starkville, so got head coaching experience as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't know about two, but I see where you're going there.
You aren't Chadwell's agent. You didn't put him on a list for speculation.
This I should have, but again,
you're costing him money.
I look. I want so much for Jamie Chadwell because I think he's an excellent coach. I just want him to be a better job than Mississippi State, maybe.
Okay.
That's what
I hope Mississippi State beats Florida State soon.
I don't know when they're going to play.
No, I know.
I mean,
college football championship next year with a new coach, Jamie Chadwell.
Yeah, sure. Good. Best of luck to them if that happens. Number 1, Jon Sumrall from Troy. They are tearing it up at Troy. He's got SEC pedigree. He's in that part of the country. He's going to get a bigger job than Troy. Mississippi State, you could make it you. I actually think this is even more of a fit than Jamie Chadwell, and I like Jamie Chadwell a lot, like I've said before. But Jon Sumrall from Troy, I would really take a hard look at him if I'm Mississippi State. The way that the Trojans play really translates well. I think it would be a fun hire for them. But, again, we'll see. And again, sometimes I really get close to the bullseye on these, and sometimes I'm way off.
I don't even know what happened.
I mean, no, his name makes a lot of sense. He's a young guy, has a lot of experience just in the region, big defensive guy. So, if you want to play some nasty defense in Mississippi State, which is, what I think you're definitely looking to do there in the SEC, for a lot of those reasons I just mentioned, he's killing it at Troy. I mean, he's doing a tremendous job there at Troy and on a heck of a run. So I think that whether it's this job or others, he's definitely going to be a name we hear lots more of moving forward. And, I think that that's a guy who is definitely near the top. I think Jamie Chadwell should be up near the top a little bit more. And then I think you could probably look at, any number of thoughts, I guess, out in Mississippi State, country or SEC analysts or whatever who have their own versions of kind of how all the rest of it falls. But it does seem like Sumrall and Chadwell are two that make a heck of a lot of sense. That would be like hires that people would go okay, cool. Whereas the others, I'm not so sure. The one name I do see mentioned quite a lot, and it would be interesting, and Dan Mullen, whether or not he could be lured back to Starkville, but he's got the TV gig going. That's going pretty well. And would he want to go back to where he's already been and not wait for something,
And he left, the reason that he got fired at Florida, and I don't think he was that mad about it, was because he did not like the way that you have to recruit now.
So does he even want to do that anymore?
So he was already recruiting against Georgia and Alabama and FSU and all these people in Miami and all that, and they're throwing all this money all over the place, and he didn't like it. And then he's going to go to Mississippi State, and then I don't have to. Yes, you the same people. Nothing changes.
Even worse is that you're not going to get a lot of the head-to-head.
You're not in Florida.
Yeah.
So, although Mississippi's got some talent, but not to the extent of the Sunshine State, obviously. But I mean, I think it's going to be Kingsbery. I wasn't thinking about him. I forgot he was just in the universe out there floating in Southern California.